Hey, welcome to the shop. Today we're looking at the HTP Inverarc 160. This is a brand new addition to the HTP product line. When I saw it come out, I reached out to them and asked if they'd be interested in providing one for review because I've been really impressed with the other HTP products I've had, and I thought at its $500 price point, it might be a really good option for those who might have, the most basic Amazon and eBay welding machines and are looking to upgrade to something a little better, or people who just want a higher quality tool that still has the simplicity of just a single knob for adjustment. So they did provide this machine for review. They didn't have any insight whatsoever into what I'm going to say about it. Let's get right into the specs on the machine. Now this machine puts out direct current or DC, and it'll run on 230 volts and output its full 160 amps, or you can run it on 115 volts and it'll output 125 amps. It has a very simple control panel with a simple switch to change between TIG and stick capability. We'll be focused on stick capability today. And it also has a knob that lets you adjust current. That's it. Now that can be an advantage or a disadvantage because some higher end units will have, certain special adjustments to be able to tune some of the capabilities of the arc, which can be good in some special circumstances. But in general, if you just want to plug something in and weld, it can be a real advantage just to have the simplicity of the single knob. It's lightweight, weighing in at 17.5 pounds, and really compact, being right around 14 inches long, 5 inches wide, and 9 inches tall. Now the duty cycle on the machine, which is the percentage of the time you can weld over a 10-minute period, is actually quite good for machines in this category. It will maintain 100% duty cycle up to 100 amps, dropping off to 40% at 160 amps when you're running on 230 volts. If you're running on 115 volts, you can run 100% of the time up to 75 amps, with that duty cycle dropping off to just 30% when you're cranked clear up to 125 amps. The power cord itself is 10 feet long out of nice flexible cable, which is really helpful when you're on the go. And it includes a nice work clamp, really heavy duty, better than most that I've seen, and it has a nice 10-foot long lead, and they've increased the length of the lead on the actual electrode holder to 15 feet, again with the nice flexible cable and a good quality holder. So I'm really happy with the accessories that came with it there. A couple of bonuses: it includes a shoulder strap and a carrying case, which is going to be good to keep it protected if you're taking it along with you, and also to keep the dirt out of the insides of the machine when you're storing it in your shop, if you're grinding and things. So it can be really good to have that too. So now that we've gone over the machine, let's go ahead and drop the hood and do some welding. Alright, so as I run these welds, I'm going to be switching back and forth between different input voltages, between 115 volts and 230 volts. Alright, well, all of these welds I'm going to be running on 1/8 of an inch or 3mm thick plate. And I'm starting off with a 1/8 inch or 3.2 millimeter 7018 electrode. And this is with the machine plugged into 230 volts and set to 130 amps. And it's running along here really nicely. Now this is good and hot, especially for this thickness of material. However, I'm able to keep it under control and I have a nice smooth arc. I'm going to go about halfway down the plate, then pull out, and I'm going to switch over to 115 volt input. Now the maximum amperage rating on this machine at 115 volts is 125 amps. So I have this machine maxed out here, and I know that that's going to be putting it right around that 30 amp maximum input amperage, which is beyond what my circuit can sustain for a period of time. So I'm just going to run it for a little bit to check it out. Now it's running along nice and smooth here at 125 amps. Again, I know that with the limitations of my electrical system, I can only go so far with this. After chipping a little bit of slag away, I can see that both of those ran really well. I got a nice smooth bead out of there. But I'm going to switch over to a 3/32 of an inch or 2.4 millimeter 7018, and I'm going to turn the machine down to a 90 amp setting, still plug into that 115 volt 20 amp circuit, and I'm going to go ahead and weld along here. Now this is not only a more appropriate setting and electrode size for welding on this 1/8 of an inch or 3mm thick plate, it also is a good setting for when I'm going to be running on 115 volts, because I know I'm not going to be drawing as much amperage out of the wall, so my electrical system will be able to sustain that. So I'll be able to weld all the way along here. It's nice and smooth, and I came out with a result that I'm really happy with after chipping that slag away. That's probably where I would run this machine most of the time with my own personal use, just because of the thickness of material that I weld with, and also because that lets me run really well on 115 volts. So I've got to say I'm pretty impressed to be able to run a 1/8 inch 7018 off of a 115 volt outlet. I've never been able to do that with a different machine before. Now let's go ahead and look at a 6010. That's a big question that gets asked a lot when you're dealing with an inverter machine. Will it run 6010? Well, the reality is if you're going to be running 6010 to be welding, open root pipe or something like that, you're probably going to want to spring for the higher end machine, either the HTP has or one of the others available. But this machine actually runs it really well. At least with a 1/8 inch electrode. Let's go ahead and this time we'll run 115 volts first and then switch over to 230 volts. And I'm just running some fillet welds here with some 6010. I'm going to be using a whip and pause type motion, which is pretty typical to be able to control heat here with my machine set at 80 amps. And it's definitely working out really well at 115 volts. And then I'll switch over to 230 volts. You can see I'm getting a very similar result as I weld it all the way along here. These 6010 type welds, at least on a fillet weld, is not going to be smooth like a 7018, but definitely cuts in good and strong. And it's a good option if you need to weld through rust or dirt or paint or something and you want to run a 6010. I'm sure this machine would also run a 6011 if it can handle a 6010. So that definitely passes the test on both 115 and 230 volts. Now I will note that I did try out some 3/32 of an inch 6010 and did have a little bit of trouble with the arc going out periodically as I was running that, but with the 1/8 inch it ran really well. So, at the end of the day, I've got to say, I really thought this machine was a lot of fun to use. I love the simplicity, just having the single knob, not having to worry about a bunch of extra settings. All right, so who is this machine the right fit for? I think it's great for anyone who wants a nice little machine around the home, farm, or ranch to perform general repairs and fabrication, where they need a stick welder that's very well controllable. I think it'd also be great for a student who wants to do some work on the side and get extra experience, or to do some additional practice. Definitely much better than those very basic Amazon, eBay type welding machines. Now, if you do find that this is the right machine for you, I do have a link down in the description below. If you use that, it will provide a small commission to help me continue to make these videos, though I never want anybody to buy something that isn't the right fit for them just for that reason. Well, thanks for tuning in today. If you found this video helpful or learned something today, let me know by hitting that thumbs up below. We'll see you next time.